Welcome to the Future and Beyond podcast. Let's chat about being future ready in the classroom.
Are you ready now? Oh, you better be ready.
Hello, future ready educators. Welcome to the Future and Beyond podcast, being future ready in the classroom. I'm your host, Lisa Hockenberry. I'm a digital learning coach at 2 elementary schools. I'm looking forward to the next 2 episodes that are coming your way. You'll be hearing from fellow colleagues about the future ready profiles in our district. I hope you enjoy hearing from these teachers as much as I did. If you're interested in lending your voice to our podcast, please reach out. I would love to hear from you. I also want to let you know that the next series in our podcast after these interviews is going to be about maker spaces and embracing challenges from our future ready skills. I'm so excited to be bringing this next series to you. So be on the lookout for that. And without further ado, here are our interviews. So, hi, Future Ready podcasters. I want to give a warm welcome to Brooke Morse. She is a kinder teacher here at Smith Elementary. So, Brooke, thank you for being here today and sharing your Future Ready experiences with all of us. So, let's get started. So, what do you think makes a Future Ready educator?
Well, I think there's a few things that really stand out to me when I look at myself as a future ready educator. One thing that I like to do is collaborate with students and parents on their goals. I like to provide opportunities for them to continuously reflect on their goals and provide plenty of time and through progress monitoring and checking where they are and giving them adequate feedback on their goals. Another thing that I like to do is provide instruction that meets students where they are. So I really, think that future ready educators need to fit children's learning styles to how they're teaching and give them plenty of choice and voice in their learning. Another thing I do is really acknowledge the whole child and celebrate cultures that I have in my classroom by providing lots of culturally reflective literature and lessons.
That is amazing, first of all. And so, follow up, how do you think that doing all those things have impacted your students in the classroom?
I definitely see that they take ownership of their learning when they have goals and they're ready to meet them. I think they're more engaged when the instruction is meeting them where they are and it's adapted to their learning styles. And I think they are ready to accept and celebrate each other when you provide culturally reflective literature in the classroom.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so what do you think makes a future ready learner? Which I think some of that you've touched on in just talking about this.
Yeah, I definitely think a future ready learner in my mind is a student who feels encouraged and supported to ask questions and be curious, to tackle new challenges, a student that can work well with others and can communicate their ideas effectively.
Yes, and you've hit on that future ready skill of embracing challenges, that growth mindset.
And
And
kinder is a great start to that. Kindergarten students are naturally curious. So fostering that and making sure they have plenty of opportunities to ask questions and to feel supported in being curious. That they're supported in doing things that are hard. Reading is hard. We take it for granted that it's a skill that comes naturally, and it's not. It's a challenge for them. So really supporting and encouraging their little steps along the way makes them feel comfortable and confident to tackle new challenges.
That is amazing. I just I've been in your room and I'm always in awe of what you're doing with your kinders and what they can do. So how are you taking this future ready educator, this future ready learner and kind of melding that all together in your classroom? What would someone see when they walk in of the future ready?
I think when they would walk in, they would see that we have different learning centers that, are differentiated for skills and what they're ready for, using, hands on or more creativity. to learn. They would see that definitely I'm pulling my small groups to hit students where they are. And then we have goal portfolios that they have. They know what they're working towards, they know what their progress is, and they're really excited to master those skills and take ownership of that.
Oh, you just made like my Future Ready heart so happy when you said goal portfolio. Like, oh, that's amazing. And to know that kinders are doing these things is just,
with support, kinders can do so much.
They really can. Let's see. What do you think could be a barrier for a teacher becoming a future ready educator, having these skills in the classroom? Like, what do you think could?
I always think my barrier is time. It's, I would love to do so much more than I'm already doing. And there's just not enough hours in the day. There's not enough time that we have as educators. The biggest gift that we can be given is time. And so, having that time and flexibility to plan lessons that are outside of the curriculum, that incorporates what we're teaching with the TEKS, but gives us the flexibility to incorporate some of those future ready skills that aren't just the status quo of what we're expected to teach. So time and flexibility for that. I also, I think teaching can be a very isolating profession. And so getting outside of your classroom and seeing what other educators are doing is a huge perk that we don't get very often. I know there's amazing teachers in the district and around, our country that are doing great future ready things, but seeing those and sharing those, that's sometimes a barrier as well.
Yeah, I would totally agree. It's because even just in our buildings, there's amazing things, and it's hard to even get into another classroom to see what are these amazing things.
Right.
And you touched on something about like time and working with lessons that like that's my goal as a DLC is like wanting to show you guys that a lot of what you're already doing, we can incorporate these future ready skills in and make the lesson even that much more robust, that you're hitting more things and you see more growth because we're putting those things in place. So I'm glad you kind of said that. I'm really glad. So like kind of wrapping this up, what gets you excited? Like what would you want to share, like super share with teachers around?
It's exciting when you see kids accomplishing things that they set forth for themselves and taking that ownership of their own learning and really, using some of these future ready skills independently that you've taught them. That's always exciting to me.
That is awesome. Well, you've like gotten me so excited. So I'm super, super happy that you shared with us and that you were willing to sit down and be interviewed. So
thanks for talking with me.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Future Ready podcasters. I want to give a warm welcome to Casey Bemis. She's a first grade teacher here at Gunstream Elementary. So thank you for being here today and sharing your Future Ready experiences with all of us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So let's get started. What do you think makes a future ready educator?
I think a future ready educator is one who's thinking like down the road as far as what these kids are going to face and being able to come up with ways to prepare them, come up with situations that they may be faced with down the road and giving them the tools that would help them to become successful, thriving young adults.
Yeah, I love that. Thinking about their future, which is student-centered, which is a huge part of Future Ready Educator. What do you think is a Future Ready learner?
I think a Future Ready learner is a kid who is a flexible thinker, a kid who has a growth mindset. They're not afraid to take chances. They're not afraid to mess up. They'll try things even if they don't know how to do it, and they don't just, if they get stuck, they quit. They're able to think outside the box and come up with different solutions that not everyone would think of. They're not a rigid type thinker. And I would say creative.
which I think I think in that description hit almost every component of the future ready learner, of just being flexible, growth mindset, and that creativity and the innovativeness that can come from all of that.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. So knowing like the future ready educator and the future ready learner, how do you think that impacts the students in your classroom?
Like, how do I as a teacher impact?
Yeah, and like implementing some of those things, how do you think it's impacted the students?
For me, I just want them to, I want my kids to be able to feel like they can make a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And when you give them challenges that make them have to think outside the box, and you give them even challenges where you know they're going to fail,
Mm-hmm.
I think that helps them down the road. They're going to face situations in jobs
Mm-hmm.
that they're not going to know what to do in that
Yeah.
situation, and they're going to have to figure out, like, how do I solve this problem? How do I work through this? How do I work with people?
Yeah.
And I think that's, for me, I want them to come upon those situations now,
Mm-hmm.
even as a first grader, and it's not going to look perfect right now, but I think the more and more they're faced with it, the more flexible they become and better collaborators.
Yeah.
I know that when I give them different tasks, I can see those who can work past it,
Mm-hmm.
even if they don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of the year, so many of them will come up to me, what do I do? What do I do right here? What do I do on this?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always like, try something different. Try something different. It's okay if you mess up. It's okay if it didn't work. Go try something different. What could you do now? And I feel like by the end of the year, they are more willing to take risks.
Mm-hmm.
They're not scared that they're going to mess something up.
I love that you don't give them an answer. You give them a challenge, like, I don't know, what can you try next? That's perfect. So thinking about like an educator, like what could be a barrier for a teacher, like trying to do some of these pieces of future ready, or what could hold a teacher up, do you think?
For one thing, I think COVID has been a huge impact in holding some kids back. Kids have been at home. They have been sheltered from a lot. They've missed a lot of the social situations, and school is not just about reading, writing, math, and all those things are important. We are seeing kids are behind in those areas, but socially, kids being able to work together, and we've been home, and I think COVID is a huge thing that's gotten in our way. And just time, and you've got kids who are behind,
Yeah,
and you're trying to catch them up of where their gaps are.
it's a tough job, you guys.
And I'm thinking of my little ones, who aren't reading on grade level, and I'm trying to get them to read on grade level, but then I've also got to think, okay, I've got others who are ready, and I want to give them those other tasks.
Yeah.
But for myself, like, I also have to think, okay, I've got a kid right now, he is not a strong reader. But we have done I did a breakout room with them, and I did a coding activity like with them yesterday, and he could code a Bebot the very first try with no issues.
That's amazing.
Can't read, but he could do that. So that just showed me, okay, I need to give him some more opportunities in those areas where I know he's going to be able to thrive. We can still work on the reading, but it was amazing to see his brain really did
nurture those strong sides too.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So it's cool.
That is so cool that you noticed that too. So last question, kind of just thinking about it, like what gets you so excited about Future Ready? Like what just
the different opportunities that these kids are going to have. They are going to get opportunities that I never got as a kid. And I think there's just going to be so many cool jobs and things that they're going to get to do and see. and I'm excited for them to do that. And, as a teacher, I want to be able to like prepare them the best I can for those things, because I think there's lots of exciting and awesome things coming our way that they're going to be in the middle of. I think they're going to be the ones who design it and make it and, make the world run.
Yeah, that's so exciting.
So,
well, awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today and lending your voice to us.
All right. Thank you.
Hi, Future Ready podcasters. I want to give a warm welcome to Kylie Clark. She is a 5th grade teacher here at Smith Elementary. So, Kylie, thank you for being here today and sharing your Future Ready experiences with us. So,
of course,
welcome.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you ready to get started?
I am ready.
Okay, so first question. So, what do you think makes a Future Ready educator?
So just being willing to take risks, I think. As an educator, we have all of these things on our to-do list, and sometimes it's okay to not have a to-do list and just go with the flow and see where our students take us. Because at the end of the day, we're there for them. And I think that's what makes a really strong teacher, is being willing to put that checklist aside when the checklist really isn't leading to the right path, which can be difficult because, we always have things to do and things on our mind, and that can get all bundled up. But if we not only put that checklist aside, but start making a new one that kind of goes along with what the students need, it creates that ability for students to take control of their education. And I mean, if they're the future, when we want them to build it themselves.
I love that. And I love that what you're saying, like the student centered and keeping the kids in the middle of it, and they're the focus.
Yeah.
And they're leading some of their learning.
Well, there's so many times where they're teaching me. And
right.
I mean, just the other day I was taking attendance and I didn't know that you didn't need to press every single button. And one of my students comes over, he's like, Miss Clark, you can just press that top button. I mean, they are simple thinkers at times, but they're also just, they're sponges. They soak up everything.
Yeah, they're not like bogged down. Well, that kind of leads to the next question of like, what do you think makes a future ready learner?
Future ready learner is willing to take risks as well. But really having that growth mindset. I tell my students that mistakes are magical, and they get it when you say it that way, because magic is, I don't know, they like magic, and I'm just talking now.
No, but I love that. Like, mistakes are magical, because you're right. Like, that's the part of it, is like getting them to understand you can risk it, be risky. This is a safe place.
Yeah.
And mistakes are where you learn stuff.
I mean, chocolate chip cookies were made by accident, and they're the best thing on the planet.
Right. Which kind of also leads to another question. Like, you're just like leading us right into all these questions.
Perfect.
But just knowing like the future ready educator, future ready learner, how do you think, like, knowing those things, how has that impacted your students?
Me just being able to teach them where they're at, I think. And especially right now, coming back from basically 2 years of being isolated and in COVID, they're scared, even though they put up a big fight, teach 5th grade. But they are definitely, they don't know what to do, and they are scared to take risks, and they need that guidance and that love and that nourishment, to say it's okay to be unsure, and it's okay to be wrong. And I think that's what I try to foster inside of my classroom, is this is a safe place to make mistakes and be you, and be okay with not being okay sometimes.
Yeah, embracing those challenges, right? So how do you think, like, what do you think are barriers for other, like, for teachers when it comes to future ready? Like, what do you think holds up teachers from
exhaustion? Just getting to a point where you get that checklist out and you don't want to make another one. You don't, like, you get those emails and you just want a clear plate, but it never ends up being cleared because there's always something piled up, or you always have to assess a student, and that assessment the data never gets to go anywhere because then you have another assessment or you have to write more about it. And I think that's something that I'm really struggling with as an educator. Is I went into education to love on these students and be there for them, but sometimes I feel like I get taken away with the extra to-do list on paper it seems great. Yes, I want to see where the student is at, but how much is too much assessment?
Yeah. I could totally see that. And I think, knowing that as a digital learning coach, like that's my goal too, is to help show teachers that the 5 C's and Future Ready is not like one more thing, that you're probably already doing it. And you're already doing a lot of these things with sheltered instruction. Like they're all embedded, and just small tweaks can just make it like that much
I love
more
that you
robust.
said that, because a lot of teachers don't know that. We get these lists of things we're supposed to be doing, and we don't realize reading it that you're actually doing it. And I think we need to hear that a lot more. There needs to be a lot more love towards just
well, that's
everything.
my goal, just so you know.
We love it. We need t-shirts.
So talk about that. What gets you excited about Future Ready?
The future, I don't know. Just it's kind of like seeing that light bulb moment with my students, or even teachers, my team, when we get really excited about a lesson, and seeing my students get really excited about something they produced or are producing. That's what gives me hope in the future and makes me excited. And especially when they see what they're learning has a connection to the real world, and they go out and they share it with others, or they say, "Oh, Miss Clark, I was reading this on my dad's newspaper or something, and oh my gosh, I found this word that I knew." And it's a big word. Awesome. But just seeing them light up outside of the classroom, inside the classroom, seeing that their learning had a purpose.
Yeah, that's awesome, which is totally Future Ready, is having that purpose and those real world connections. So, well, thank you. I wanted to say thank you. And I appreciate you loaning your voice to us.
Of course.
Hi, Future Ready podcasters. I want to give a warm welcome to Jennifer Greenlee. She is a first grade teacher here at Gunstream Elementary. So Jennifer, thank you for being here today and sharing your Future Ready experiences with all of us.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, so let's get started. So first question up, what do you think makes a Future Ready educator?
I think a teacher that is continually evolving in their methods and strategies, someone who stays relevant to the generation that they teach. The kids that we are teaching today are very different than the kids that have come through our class 5 years ago, for sure, 10 years ago. So a teacher that's eager to learn new methods, that's willing to apply the most current research-based teaching that's out there. And you really have to make room for the new. Be willing to kiss your old, tired, true techniques goodbye and tell them thank you, but evolved with what is relevant.
Yeah, I love that, like adapting to what's new. And you're so right that the kids nowadays are different already from just 5 years ago, and their futures are going to be completely different. So
yes,
we have to kind of evolve. So which kind of leads us to that next question of, what do you think a Future Ready learner is?
Well, this Future Ready has been sort of a catchphrase for the last few years, and it means so many different things. There's so many components to Future Ready. I think, we hear a lot about the 5 C's. We hear about, technology and the collaboration. But when I think about this question, I just think that it starts with their heart. I think that a heart that's equipped with compassion and otherness,
that that just trumps all the other characteristics, because I think work ethic and perseverance, social intelligence, all of those are very important to being a future ready learner. But I also believe that an overflowing heart for others is a great motivator. And if you can fuel a desire for making a positive impact and creating a better future, then greatness is just going to follow.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love that take that you have on it, because too, there is a component in the Future Ready that talks about contributing to our community. And that's huge, because if they can do that, then everything else just kind of follows along.
And if they are others minded, they are going to be collaborators, and they're going to be, innovators, and they're going to be working to better things.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love that. Okay, so knowing like a future ready educator and a future ready learner, like how do you think that impacts your students?
Well, the last few years I have been really dedicated to embracing just a future ready approach in the classroom. And at the onset of that, it was heavy in technology. And that was definitely an important area that I needed to grow and get comfortable with. So I don't deny that technology is a very big part of it. And I've learned to leverage technology to enhance the learning in my classroom. That's the most obvious, I think, indicator of future ready in my classroom. But I like to think a little beyond the obvious. In addition to the technology, I'm really dedicated to fostering independent thinkers and self-starters, students who learn to ask questions rather than just sit and get, but they become very active in their learning by asking questions and then seeking to find the answers. I love teaching students to look at information through a variety of perspectives. I think it promotes innovation that way.
Yeah, and I love the curiosity, because if they're staying curious, then they're going to, keep innovating and coming up with different solutions. It's
exactly. And the perspective, I think, is so important to look at things in a new and different way.
So, another question, sorry, that paused for a second, so I don't know if it glitched. What do you think a barrier to the future ready classroom could be? Like, what would hold a teacher back, do you think, or even maybe a student?
Okay. Well, I was thinking, when I was growing up, I knew about these charismatic churches where they had no clocks on the walls, they had no preset ending time, and I started thinking, what if that was our classroom? What if we could just get everybody fired up about a topic and we could just ride that wave for as long as it is productive and for as long as it lasts? Because, just think about it. In our classrooms, it happens all the time that we get everyone on board and they're all enthusiastically engaged. And that's when the timer rings or the bell rings. And we have to shut down that thinking just with the promise of tapping into it again tomorrow. But that doesn't always happen. There's also times when there's unrelated stuff that comes up that interferes and there's very little engagement and everyone could just really use a break. But we can't ride those waves of momentum for very long, because we know there's more content. There's more content that if it's not mastered, it must at least be presented. So we just have to keep pressing on. And so when I consider this question, I really think that for me, it's the scheduled minutes that are the biggest barrier to being future ready.
Yeah. I could see that. So, it's kind of in time, and you're absolutely right. I've seen it where kids are so excited and so engaged, and we're like, oh, so sad, we have to go to such and such place, or we have to have math now, or reading.
Yes, we really want them kind of navigating their own learning. And sometimes it feels like just as we've sort of got them going, it's okay, we'll stop for now.
Yep, I know. Wouldn't it be nice to, like you said, no clocks and just let creation happen in there? It would be amazing.
Yeah.
So, which leads us to what gets you excited about Future Ready?
It just depends on when you ask me that question, because if you'd asked it to me 5 years ago, I probably would have said all of the different formats that are available with like multimedia, how you can be so, it's just easier to be prescriptive because you can deliver things differently with all of the different software that we have and all of the different platforms. But I think I'm going to go a different direction today with that answer and say that it's just the students that, along with the technology, but together with the student choice and with them conferencing about setting their own goals, with them reflecting and celebrating their progress and tracking that the culture of my classroom has changed. So it's not, it's together with the technology, but it has blossomed into so much more. I just feel like that in the past I had a ceiling over them, and that I've worked really hard to get out of their way by removing that sort of predetermined outcome of how I think the day will go or how I think the topic will go. And instead, I've just intentionally talked less and listened more, probing and guiding and following their lead. And with that, I feel a different climate in my classroom. So that's what I'm most excited about.
That's awesome. And that just is a totally student-led mentality. That's what we want. That's what Future Ready is. Because even in kinder, first grade, they can do those things. They can lead the way if, like you said, kind of get out of their way a little bit. So it's so exciting.
Yes, I agree. And I have to say it holds the key to the engagement.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, you're spot on. So thank you. Thank you so much for lending your voice to us today.
Yes, for sure.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our interviews from our very own teachers. Until next time, stay Future Ready. Don't forget to fill out our episode 4 Google form. See you next time.
Ready, ready. Are you ready? I said, are you ready?